welcome to your day off. My name is Corey, and of course, I'm sitting with my best bud, Tony. What's up, man?
What's up, brother?
Today's going to be a fun day.
Yeah, it's cool. We're talking to someone who's created space in our industry for people that travel and that need a chair or a particular space to, for their clientele. And that's hard to come by, you know what I mean? Unless you know somebody or you have a friend at a salon. Otherwise, you kind of in a hotel or going to their house or whatever. But this particular person's created space for the hairdresser that does a lot of traveling.
And she has a complete history of the business side of our industry too. So I can't wait to kind of get into that as well.
Yeah, she spent a lot of time in the industry focusing on the business side of it. So I think we're going to get some really good stories, some really good information, especially on the business side. And I can't wait to really get into what she's doing now.
Yeah. So today our guest is Charlene Wilkinson, and she has her husband actually is a salon owner. And again, I kind of want to tease what their space is because but it's an open space. Let's have her tell it, shall we? But you're going to have to wait a little bit because we have a little bit more of her story before we kind of get to what she's doing now. So Miss Charlene Wilkinson, welcome to your day off.
Hi, guys. How are you?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, welcome.
Good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, completely. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for making time for us.
Yeah. So where are you from? Where did you grow up?
Pennsylvania, Scranton area. Not exactly Scranton, but yeah.
PA girl.
Yeah, I know Scranton because of The Office, right?
Of course.
The movie, the TV show, The Office?
Yeah.
This we're totally oblivion. Nobody knew us, and now we're like famous, but not always for the best reason.
Well, for The Office, that's a pretty good reason.
Yeah, it's not bad. Before it was like Home Alone. I think there was one little mention being stuck in the airport in Scranton, but that's as famous as we got till The Office.
Till The Office. Now The Office made you guys huge.
Yeah.
Yep.
We still watch that show all the time.
Oh, it's always on a loop in this house.
Yeah. Now we're famous. Now we're good.
Famous. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how kind of tell us your story. Like did you go to college or
I did. I went to school in Scranton. I was a theater major, and I always wanted to come to New York and get out like as soon as possible. And of course I got mixed up with one of you guys. Well, not exactly one of you guys, but another guy. Got delayed, so I just kind of hung out in Scranton. You can't make a living acting in Scranton, sadly.
No.
But I sang in cover bands and singing No Doubt covers and stuff in the clubs, and kind of figuring out a way to get out. And actually, my hairdresser was one of my close friends, Joanne Harris, and I haven't talked to her in forever, but I forever am indebted to her, and I love her. Joanne, hi, if you're anywhere out there. She was a good friend of mine, and she was a hairdresser. She had her own little independent studio out of her house. Very cool space. And she was doing a hair show with Big Sexy Hair. And they needed like a redhead, which I am. They needed someone who was willing to like cut their hair, which I was. So I'm like, yeah, I'm there. Free haircut, free color, 20, whatever, needed anything free I could get. And so I went to this cool hotel. It was like the most glamorous thing. Got my hair chopped up, but it was good. And colored, and actually one of the sales manager guys from the distributor was like, oh, we're doing something at the China Club tomorrow night with Michael O'Rourke if you guys want to come. And I'm like, don't know who Michael O'Rourke is, never been to the China Club, but I heard New York. I'm like, I'm there, get me out of here. So just carpooled with Joanne and I think someone else, and we just zipped out to New York for the night the next day. And I found out he thought I was a hairdresser and was trying to recruit me to be an educator. I don't know how he thought I was a hairdresser. Apparently I give off that vibe, right guys?
That's right.
100%.
So when you said he, who is that was that Michael O'Rourke or was that
his name was Michael Coccaro, and he was a regional manager for Sexy Hair, and he had like Deep Pasquale and a bunch of distributors at the time.
All right.
And so they needed educators and artists, and I was just, I don't know. So I gave off that vibe. I got to go to New York for the night and hang out at the China Club and see Michael O. And I guess he thought that I totally pulled the wool over his eyes and said that deliberately to go to the club or whatever. But I'm like, no way, you totally misunderstood. I never said it. To this day, I bet you if we were in the same room, we'd argue, and he would insist that I was like trying to pull one over. But I will say no. I'm like, no, I'm in sales. I was in sales too, just retail world there in Scranton. And he's like, well, if you're willing to move to New York, I'm like, yes, please. And so here we go. I interviewed. I got a gig with Big Sexy Hair. It was sexy hair, but everybody called it big sexy hair. And I was a brand manager for Deep Pasquale. Do you guys know Deep Pasquale?
That's a distributor, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They're
I actually
distributors.
think we met them. I think we met them last year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're still holding strong, which is amazing because there's so few independent distributors out there. So, and it was amazing for me to see the distributor side of the business because, then I morphed into more like the manufacturer, L'Oreal corporate end of it. But,
Uh-huh.
that was really kind of my pedigree and where I got to know a lot of the big names. And I was like 20 something and going to sales meetings, and the sales managers were saying, slow down, you're talking too fast. And I was like, this young girl from Scranton trying to look cool with all these
Right.
New York, New Jersey people. And, anyway, so it was a real experience. And, I remember they like, you have to just drive around with these reps for a week to make sure like you're okay with sitting in a car and da, da, da. I'm like, yeah, I love that. And I was always a little road warrior and I loved going places. And so that was kind of the beginning. And I loved every second.
That's what I love about our
Yeah,
industry, because you don't necessarily have to be a hairdresser and to embrace the industry, right? Uh,
totally.
here, it was just kind of like almost it meant to be, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you weren't a hairdresser, but they thought you were. They invited you to New York to the China Club, and you went there, and uh, it's funny you guys get into a little, you tricked me. No, I didn't. And then, it ended up into a job offering, and
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool how someone finds the industry.
It's incredible, really.
It's completely, it's really different than any other story that we've heard.
Yeah, definitely.
It,
We
it's
I don't know how
Yeah.
many people we've had on the sales side on.
right. Yeah.
Really.
No,
So did you have any business at school? Did you take business at all? Or did you have
no,
any?
I was totally just a theater major and I was a singer and I was working at Nine West, but I became like the manager of Nine West because I guess I was good at sales despite my intention not to be. And I remember like my grandmother buying a car when I was 12 and I got her a really good deal. And the guy's like, you want to work here? Because
Right.
I just always, I guess, was good at that. But I think it's not really as much about sales. It's just talking to people and liking people and asking questions and learning about them. So I've never had sales training except for whatever L'Oreal made me go to, which was fine.
Right.
I definitely don't remember much of that. But I just think the nice thing about this industry is that it's so human and it's so real and there's not a lot of room for BS. So if you have that, people can see you a mile away. And I think that's probably why I did well in sales in this industry. Like maybe not on Wall Street, probably couldn't rock it there, but I truly loved all the people and all these like really cool, unique individuals I met along the way.
So,
Yeah.
so when you were doing these car rides, were were you 100% committed to New York then, or were you still like living in Scranton, just kind of hanging out in New York and seeing if this worked?
No, I moved. I moved. Literally, like, guys, I was married, and I told my husband, who, that was not the best choice at that young age to get married. I'm like, I'm going. I found an apartment. I can afford it on my salary. Come if you want. Don't if you don't. This is it. So I just knew I needed a change, and I felt like I was there a little longer than I should have been. And I just felt literally before I was actually hired, when they were just doing like the test car rides, I'm like, this is it. This is totally what I want to do. And I love it. I loved every second. So yeah, I was just ready to go. So no, peaced out. I went as close to the city as I could get, which was sadly like not close to the city. It was like 45 minutes out of the city. But I'm like, if everything goes sideways, I can afford it by myself. And yeah, that's that.
That's
And then
pretty
I moved
cool.
into the city a little longer, a little later on when I was solo, independent.
All right. So you left a big part out. Did he go with you?
Oh yeah, he did. He did.
All
But
right. So, yeah, you're like,
physically, but not mentally. And then it like really like crashed and burned really quick, which some of my old peeps from D plus Squall know that crazy story. But it was just what I needed at the right time, get me in a great place. And I feel like that's when my real like adulthood in life began. It was good.
Wow. How did you get from the distributor to L'Oreal?
I loved sexy hair. I loved Michael O'Rourke. Donna Federici was the head of sales and marketing at the time. Michael Caparo, who brought me in, just all these amazing people. And I learned so much. And I think I just grew so much in those 3.5 years. And I had this headhunter just calling me, harassing me. And it was for L'Oreal and it was for Kerastase. And she couldn't get how I was not open to it. She's like, you work for sexy hair and I know it's an awesome brand, but it's with the distributor. She's like, everybody wants to work with the manufacturer and everybody wants to work with L'Oreal. And so literally, I think it was like in April that she started calling me, and I finally like actually took the job in November, and like took months to even go for an interview because I felt so passionate about what they did for me there. And I realized though it was an awesome opportunity and a step for growth. And I think the cool thing at the time was that Kerastase was like, as Frederique Besson, she was the general manager at the time. She's like, we're like a little diamond, we're not like L'Oreal, corporate, we're kind of our own little, because I love like sexy hair was kind of like wild, wild west. It was crazy. They're like, can you go to Toronto? Sure. Can you go to California? I'm like, definitely. Can you go to Florida? I remember like bouncing around from like the premiere show to like something in Chicago to, I'm like, just send me on the road. I'm there. And I think I was on the road for like 2 weeks straight once. And I just kind of loved that flexibility and that I could just raise my hand and do something awesome. And I was afraid that going to L'Oreal would be like in a little kind of cookie cutter. I wouldn't be able to move around. But I think I was there when it was still really early days, and it was awesome because we were pretty independent. And it was literally like big sexy hair, shatter haircut, like crazy texture. These two guys, I don't know if you know Rod Sickler, if you remember Rod Sickler, who's one of the hair artists for Big. They would take clippers and they would like to Metallica, be like just chopping the heck out of girls' hair at premiere. And then I had to go to like Kerastase, Manhattan, Upper East Side. Like, oh shit, I need to go shopping. I can't wear all this like studded crap. But it was funny. So,
it's like going from a rave to an opera.
Exactly.
Totally. Yeah.
Totally
and I had
was.
never seen an opera. Never. Exactly. So, it was like definitely like little graduations, like I feel like DePasquale and Sexy Hair was like my alma mater. That's like where I got my degree in the hair biz. And then kind of L'Oreal was more like grad school. And then I got to really, get to know some of these awesome salon owners in Manhattan, which are really like some untappable. It's really hard to get to have relationships with these like big New York City salon names. And that's something that I never would have had the opportunity to do without Kerastase. So
hey, just to back you up a little bit,
Yeah.
what was kind of your job title at Kerastase? Like, what did you actually do?
Well, Kerastase, I just started running the New York City sales market, and then I became a regional. So I managed the Midwest or Mid-Atlantic, sorry. So like from Connecticut down to your hood, down to like Virginia, DC.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I like had a team of brand managers that called on the salons, and I managed the team of brand managers and all that good stuff.
Wow. So you did that like from corporate then?
Yeah. And, it was interesting because it was so cool and kind of independent and really chic and special when I started. And then, every brand kind of has a life cycle. And I don't know, I want to bore everybody with the whole retail side of things. But, Kerastase was pretty cool in the beginning. And then we launched Shu Uemura. So I was there when they launched that Shu Uemura Art of Hair line. That was amazing. And then, just like any corporate company, when you're only, quote, a startup brand for so long, and then you have to start playing nice with all the other, L'Oreal Professional colors and all that. And it kind of shifted. And I loved managing people. And I like the people that I worked with as a regional, some of my brand managers, they came with me to Orbe, and like now we're, talking about each other's kids and going to visit one like on the West Coast. So it's, that's, I think what the best part of it all was, is that as big of a business as it is, I think we all agree it's super small and like,
oh yeah.
Maintain.
We've learned that through the podcast, right? Like,
yeah, right. I'm sure.
Especially now that social media, the internet, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It really made it small.
Everybody has a familiar face now,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And like Peru's had this whole other, like, I'm like the one side. I feel like I know a lot of people in one kind of part of the industry. And then you guys, I feel like, are a little bit more of this cool underground. And I feel like Peru's is bringing this together, and I'm getting to know all these people I didn't. So it's really awesome. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. What, so you went to Orbe right after Kerastase?
Yeah. So Kerastase was kind of shifting. It was getting a little bit more, I don't want to say mass, but it was just not as exclusive. And that was like, as much as I was kicking and screaming to leave Sexy Hair, Kerastase, I was literally like the first one, I think, to kind of depart from there, the OG that were there from the beginning, because it was so good for so long. But I just kind of saw something shifting. And, Tev Finger and Dan Kaner had started Orbe, and people have been whispering in my ear for a while. And I live in Manhattan in this building in Chelsea, and I swear it's like a hairdresser, hair salon building. While I was with Kerastase, Frederique Besson, the GM, was like, Madame, she's French, I would like you to open Robert Cris Salon. And Robert Cris Salon was a big salon on Bleecker Street in the West Village. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was really like, all the celebs, Sarah Jessica Parker and Carolyn Bessette and John, like all just, I can't, Mariah Carey, all these awesome, like The Edge. I remember like my husband said, like somebody came up to the salon to check out and he looked at the credit card and he was like, what? It just said The Edge on it. So like they had some amazing clientele. And she's like, Madame, I would like for you to go open that salon if you can with Kerastase. No one has been able to do it. I think you can do it. So I did. It was not easy. This guy, Cree, of Robert, there was a Robert and there was a Cree. He was a real pain in my ass. And I had to literally like harass him. And I made friends with the receptionist and be like, he doesn't come in until like 2. I'm like, wow, he's got a nice gig. He's coming in at 2. So I would call him. I was on vacation. I'd be calling him. And finally, he took the line on. And, I'm sure we both have various versions of the story. But I'm married to him now with his child. But I originally thought he was gay at first. And then I didn't, who knew? But so basically, he got me an apartment in our building before we even were going out. So I moved into this building. He was a salon owner. There was like another salon owner, David Cote Blanche, that has this cool place, Red Market. There's this awesome educator from Bumble and Bumble, Tom Gallagher, who lives in this building, and like many others, guy Riyad Azar. So it's weird. There's like all these independent people are doing hair in their apartments. They have like professional sinks set up. But like I'm getting off track, but Tom Gallagher. It's cool. It's cool. You guys come visit. We'll have a party, small apartment, but we could link them all together. But so Tom Gallagher was a hairdresser at Bumble for many years, and the founders of Orbe were the Bumble guys, Tev Finger, Dan Kaner. And I guess he went over, he was the first guy, he like wrote all the curriculum with Orbe Canales, rest in peace, Orbe. And he just kept saying, I think you'd be really great. You should talk to them. You should talk to the guys. Like, it's an awesome brand. They're kicking ass. I think you'd be perfect for it. And at this time I was like, at first it was like a year of him harassing me, but like at that time I was like, all right, I'm done. I'll go meet them. And I literally sat in a room with Todd Hildum, Tev, Daniel Kaner, Dan Langer was the marketing guy. And I was like, yes. And it was a gamble, right? Like I had pension that I gave up with L'Oreal, and not that I was ever afraid to gamble, but 401k match, awesome insurance, like, I don't know, lots of time off, good salary, almost guaranteed to make your bonuses. But these guys were so compelling in what they were creating. And I think that it was a shift in me to want to be more of an entrepreneur. And even though, of course, it wasn't my brand, they like offered, employee shares in the business. And I really treated it like my own brand. And I feel like that was what brought me into that entrepreneurial spirit. And I loved every second. It was back to the wild, wild west. I said it was like sexy hair and like the cool, fun hairdresser. The education was amazing. Like Sexy Hair really always had great and cared a lot about education. Kerastase cared nothing about education back in those days. So I was so happy to get back into that, because I was the kind of person that would like, if there was a mannequin head left at like one of the D Pasquale sexy hair classes and a hairdresser didn't show up, I would like take the mannequin head and a pair of scissors and cut the head, because I loved it. Want to be a hairdresser. My mother still has that same haircut that I gave her.
Full size Barbie.
Yeah. She made me cut her hair for a lot of years, and then I was like, Mom, I can't do it. There's hair all over the Gotta go to the salon. I'm married to a hairdresser salon owner now. It's okay. But yeah, so I think it was just kind of like, again, it was really an instant thing. Like L'Oreal took me a while, but as soon as I sat down with those guys, I thought the brand was beautiful. I thought that they had such a different perspective, and I was never in the whole Bumble loop of people, and they were like our enemies at L'Oreal, so, and then that was that. And it was like in the first year of the brand, Kerastase gave me like a nice 6-month non-compete where they paid me not to work for 6 months. That was pretty awesome.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was definitely cool. Yeah, it was really
Orbe did a great thing, because they kind of like the product line, just kind of the way I remember it, it was kind of like real clean and classy, but it was also a little bit of rock and roll under it too, right?
Yeah.
And that was kind of like, it kind of was that that mix between Kerastase and Sexy Hair.
Yeah, like Sexy Hair grew up, wanted to be a little bit more chic,
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. It was awesome. And it had the artist behind it. And that's something that I missed, because I loved Michael O. I just saw Michael O at the IBS in New York a couple months ago, and there's just something about that person and that visionary, and Orbe was that person. I loved just being in his presence, and he was, it made it mean a little bit more, when you're selling something. And I never was ever like, oh, I'm a salesperson. Nobody wants
Right.
to say I'm in sales. I mean, some people do, but I was never like this sales. I'm a salesperson. I'm great at sales. I just liked spreading the word and bringing people together and like showing people how they could make some money and be more successful. And when you had somebody like Orbe behind it and like the creative geniuses that were,
Right.
Dan, Daniel, and Ted, it was cool. It was cool. It was
Charlene,
really fun.
correct me if I'm wrong, and I probably am, but wasn't Michael Gordon involved with Orbe at first as well?
No, he was not. He was never involved with Orbe. He, of course, was, the Bumble and Bumble guy, and he
Right.
had to stick around a little bit longer. So when Daniel and Tev and Michael and all that crew sold Bumble and Bumble to Lauder, I think Michael had to stick around a lot longer than
Oh,
Tev and
okay.
Daniel did. So Daniel and Tev, created this with some, Dan Langer was the marketing guy. I think Michael he was still there for a few years. So after
Got
that,
it.
yeah.
Got it. So you said that, you like to share and you like to help people make more money. Kind of what did that look like from your side? Like what were you teaching the hairstylist about? Was it just retail sales? Was it just product sales? Was it education? What was that?
You know, and Michael O'Rourke said it. He's like, don't be afraid to be successful. Don't be afraid to make money, because when you're successful and you're in a strong financial place, you come from a stronger point of view to be able to help others. And I always remember that. And it's definitely, I take it to heart, with my family, if I can help them and whatever. Um, so I think that it was a little bit of everything, like Kerastase was more business. So we would teach them, how to sell treatments and to be able to increase their paycheck as a hairdresser and be able to
Right.
buy a house or whatever it is. With Sexy Hair, it was definitely about like the education and like the tools and cutting and, just, some of the guys there would just tell them how to just do a better job in the chair with your client in the consultation. And all these things I feel like were little seeds that were planted that I got to learn from other people. And, I didn't just go and talk about a new product launch. I tried to share something that was impactful to me from all these people. So, you
Got
can
it.
go and you can say, this is our great new product and these are the ingredients and this is how much it costs and this is who it's for. But, that'll only get you so far. And if you don't connect with these people in a real human way and like maybe give them an added value, just like you guys do for your clients every day, I think. And that's why, 17 years or so later, here I am and still talking to the same people I talked to 17 years ago. And we have that connection, and these people have become my family now. So yeah, a little bit of everything, talking about their books and their business and, get them to buy more product, of course, but only if they sold it. And,
Right.
it's always a balance. I always felt like I was serving two masters. I always felt like I was serving my company, especially if L'Oreal's like, well, here's your goal. You got to make this much in sales a month. Right. But like, you can't just shove it down the salon's mouth. Right. And I've got in trouble a couple times for really speaking up and saying like, you can't expect them to buy this just because we're selling it. Like if they're not needing it or if they're not doing well enough that it warrants it. And I remember like I wrote kind of a Jerry Maguire letter once. I'm sure it damaged my prospect of like becoming a VP someday at L'Oreal, which I didn't want to do at the time anyway. But I remember like saying like, you guys got to listen up. And, it's hard because there's all these conversations that go on between the sales reps and the managers sometimes or the salon. And, and then they turn around and they go on a conference call and they give lip service. And I feel like that was the hardest thing for me throughout my career. And that's why I'm so happy to be doing something, independent right now.
How,
Cool.
how long ago did you leave Orbe?
So I had a child and I used to travel like a crazy person because I was in new business. So I, traveled up and down the East Coast opening up new business. And when you're in new business, you're a road warrior. I was the only woman except for one other girl, Leslie, who left before that, traveling. And I thought I could do it. And I remember going back and I remember like my son was 3 months old and I had a little bit of a meltdown. And I'm sure some of the women out there can appreciate this, even if you're just going 20 minutes down the road to an office. But the traveling was definitely one of the reasons that I left, and the company was positioning itself to sell. So I had a good opportunity and out there. That was about 3 years ago in August. And, that was kind of like a what do I do moment, because I mean, I'm sure you guys see how the retail world has changed so much. in the last, I think the last 10 years, it's been like a seismic shift. But
Sure.
I thought, I don't know if I even want to sell products anymore, because you're forcing products into a salon that, has stylists that don't want to sell them. They don't want to be bothered. That's not what they love. To clients who'd just rather buy them on Amazon. I just felt like I was like fighting reality every day by what I did. So I'm like, I don't think I could do that again. So yeah. So there you go. And that was the last product line I worked for.
That's
Wow.
awesome. So then how long was the shift before you evolved into your next venture?
It's because everybody knows everybody. This person was like, oh, you're looking for this? You should call Charlene. She could help you with that. Oh, you're trying to do that? Call Charlene. She could help you. So I kind of consulted a little bit and got involved in a number of little random projects. And, some of it was exciting. Some of it was like, I can help you. I'll do it. But there's this gentleman, Dharmendra Manhwani, who he actually was part owner in over 300 Begin locations internationally. He brought it to India. They did like more dollars per square foot than Zara did in India with the Begins. And he sold his equity in that. He sold to private equity. He opened a salon in Soho. It was another like, oh, DM. He goes by DM. You should talk to Charlene. You need help with this. So he was doing something totally different. But, I thought, I'll help you. I didn't know if what he was doing was kind of, I see salons struggling. My husband owns a salon. He's owned a number of salons in the past 30 years. And I've seen the shift for a salon owner too, especially, I don't want to say especially in New York City, because it's happened everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But, you guys work out of a suite, right? So you kind of, yeah. And I see that the more kind of tenured in the industry a stylist is, the more, they have these intense, deep relationships with their clients. And the reality is, in 99% of circumstances, the relationship is between the client and the stylist and not the client and the salon. They might love the salon.
Right.
They might like the proximity and like the closeness to where they live, but it's been a shift. And of course, with Instagram, with Facebook, you can get a hold of them. Like, I still see salons like that tell the stylist they can't take their phone on the floor because they don't want them to like connect with these people. If they know their name,
Sure.
it's just crazy that this is still happening. And then they have like a community phone to take pictures so they could post and whatever. But I've just seen the challenge. I've seen it personally, in my family with my husband's salon, and just with all these close friends over the years, struggling to get great hairdressers. And it's because these great hairdressers are just doing their own thing. In New York, a lot of it is really like out of their apartments, like you guys mentioned. And I think that it's hard to find a really cool salon to work at if you want to be independent in the city. And I think that, DM, he opened his salon, he opened it with one business model, and he saw really quickly that he was kind of fighting against the reality. And he had the salon on West Broadway. It was across from the old Privé. And I think there must have been a lot of like traveling West Coast, East Coast stylists, and they would knock on his door every day and say, hey, like, can I rent a chair? And he's like, no, get away from my beautiful salon with my $70,000 reception desk. Go, get out, right? And my husband, he's had some of the same people for 20 years work for him. He's had stylists that worked for him at Robert Cree. They've left, they've gone and opened their own salons, and they've come back at Chris Chase, his salon now, Chris Chase. And they've come back because they're like, wow, that sucked. Owning my own salon was terrible. I made no money. I lost all my money. I made so much more money just working for you. And, I was I talked the anti-rental, anti-booth rental for many years. I have to be honest, like during the Kérastase years, like it's subpar, it's this, it's that, but you have to learn from reality. I think that's the one thing I keep going back to, is that, I'm an artist in a different way from my, acting, singing days, but as artists, you guys don't want to be kept in a box, right? Like,
Right.
especially at your place in your career, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
And we've talked about too, a lot of times it's funny, like we see the evolution of what's happening as well. And a lot of like salon owners aren't trying to evolve. They're trying to, keep it back from like where it was back in the day and not evolve. And so instead of seeing maybe, how can I evolve what I'm doing to incorporate so we can, make everybody happy, they try to keep everything back. And there's nothing wrong being a salon owner, because I was in a salon for over 20 years. Like you said that, your husband had it, people that work for him for 20 years. I was in a place for over 20 years myself, and I love the guy, and I give him a lot of credit, and we talk about him on the podcast a lot. But at the same time, he did not try. He wasn't evolving. He tried to prevent you, very similar to the stories that you were saying, to grow as an individual. If you're not growing the company, then you were being held back, and it's just unfortunate that there's a lot of salon owners so like that. But it's amazing to see your perspective change, and and grow. I respect that, because it's hard to do sometimes.
Evolve or dissolve, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Evolve or dissolve.
I'm going to add that into my vernacular. I never heard that. Evolve or dissolve.
That's awesome. All right, cool. So let's get down to the nuts and the bolts. What are you doing for the industry? How can people get in touch with you? All that good stuff.
So Artist on Go, that's what DM, he's the brainchild. He's the one who created this idea. So I'm just, co-founder along for the ride, trying to help and bring what I can to it with him. And the reality is we just want to make it easier for artists to be artists, and we want to help salon owners pay their bills. I don't want to see my friends that I love lose their businesses and struggle. And I think that you can fight it, or you can, like you said, evolve and kind of open up to it. But one of the things that I've been lucky enough to do is work with awesome brands like that were a little bit more, esteemed kind of. And there's a good way to do anything, right? I mean, you can be rental, you can be like $90 a day on Craigslist and just say, hey, come on in. I don't care who you are. I'm desperate. I got to pay the bill. There might not be any towels for that renter. Or you can do it in a really beautiful salon that, guess what? They're probably already renting anyway. And I don't know, Tony, if you said it, like, unless you know somebody,
Right.
How are you going to even find out that salon would rent? Because you'd be like, ooh, Chris Chase rents. Ooh, Red Market, these cool salons. So nobody would know it unless you knew someone. And that's not cool. And that's not fair. Like, there has to be a way for great stylists and great salons to find each other. So what we're doing, and I think the most important thing, is that it's really great visible spaces, so that as an artist who's probably at the top of your game, if you have a big enough book, that you can work on your own and you don't need to walk in, not that they exist anymore, but sadly, but you can find a cool salon that your clientele, feels comfortable and beautiful in. And then you feel like you're still being a professional. You don't have to go to somebody's apartment and, like, I mean, I have kids, I love kids, but like, gush over their baby while they're, running around on the floor, and the mother's chasing after them with your scissors in your hand. And then you have to, like, sit there while their color's processing instead of doing someone else's hair, and, like, lug your crap on the subway, 5 different places in a day. So it just, and I see a lot of people doing that. And I've seen at the salon, literally, like, people with their phone in their hand, they're showing me pictures of family member, right? Like my husband's stylist that we're friendly. And there's like something pops up. Oh, hey, if you can come to my house around 8, that'd be cool. My husband wants a haircut too. So they're like leaving his salon. They're going to someone's house after it. Salon's not getting any bit of that. And that is like huge in New York. Only we're not as smart as, say, the West Coasters, where they charge double to go to someone's house because they got to sit on the 405. They're like, oh, I charge you $120 here. I'll charge you $100. Give me cash. So they're making like less money. They don't realize it. And anyway, so we have great salons. And then the other thing is it's an invitation only community.
Well, what does that mean?
Basically, if you go to artistongo.com and you try to check out our site and book a space, unless you have like an invitation code, or unless like I sent you guys in text, a referral, and then you could click on. So there's definitely some integrity to it, and that it's a referral and an invitation only community. We keep tabs on all the artists, so it's like a really like respectful community. The other thing is some of the biggest name hairdressers in the business that do this, that like rent in different cities and travel. I've heard nightmare stories from the salon owners where they leave it a mess. They like totally, use 4 chairs instead of 2. It's just, they trash the joint. The stylists that work there every day and their clientele are upset by it, and there's no transparency. Then they can't go back to that salon because they did a bad thing, but they might screw up 3 other salons on 3 other days because it didn't get out. So we have reviews, so you can say.
Charlie, I want to slow you down a little bit because I'm a little lost in the story. So
sorry.
Salon, that's okay. Artist on the Go. So that's so what you're doing is you have relationships with other salons in, in Manhattan, or where we're just talking about Manhattan for now. So you have
Yeah.
these great salons and you guys have a relationship with them. And then Artists on the Go is renting almost like Uber for hairdressers, right? So you're actually,
Yeah.
you have relationships with these guys where you're renting out some of their spaces,
Yeah.
or,
So
or a chair.
what is Artist on Go? I should have backed it up a little bit. What is
Yeah.
Artist on Go? So Artist on Go it's a platform, it's a website that a hairdresser can go and they can rent a space. They can rent for an hour, they can rent for a day, they can rent for a week, whatever.
Hmm.
And it's a collection of salons. The salons are really nice, awesome salons, like some of the best salons. Right now, we're only in Manhattan. We're going to expand, but you can go online and say, I am working in Chelsea today. My clients are all based in Chelsea. I want to be at this salon for 4 hours. And you literally just go on the day before, you book it, you pay for it online. The salon gets a notification. They see that, stylist Jen is coming in that day. She's got 4 haircuts. They can message back and forth if they need to. And that's it. So as a stylist, you rented a spot for 4 hours in a beautiful salon. Your clients felt like they were in a really special professional location. And then if tomorrow your clients are all uptown, you can rent on the Upper East Side. Maybe you only have 2 clients and you rent for
Right.
2 hours. We have this awesome hairdresser, Josue. He works with Sarah Jessica Parker and does set work and stuff. And he left the salon that he was in, and he just needs to see a client here and there after he's on set. So like one day he rented in Brooklyn after he finished shooting. He rented like 2 hours and he saw his
Nice.
clients in Brooklyn. He used to go to their house. So now he's like, oh my God, I was done an hour earlier because I don't have to schlep, and I had them both come within a half hour. So that's what it
Nice.
is. So it's an Uber or a WeWork or whatever for hair, but it's a community too. And there's
I
a lot
love
more to
this,
it, but
man. I really, really love this. So what criteria is Artists on the Go going? If I'm a salon owner and I kind of want that, what criteria are you guys looking for? I mean, you've sold that it's a really great space there. So do
Mhm.
you actually go in and look at the space, or can you website
Yeah.
evaluate them, or how's that
So
work?
we have, I mean, and we're not trying to like hide the names of salons. We're not saying like Cool Chic Salon in Chelsea. We have the name of the salon there. We
Hmm.
have pictures of the salon that we had a photographer take pictures of all the salons. So there's not like somebody's tweaking and photoshopping and making look better than it is. It's literally our photographer took the pics of all the salons. So you know what
Hmm.
you can see, swipe through. You can see what color lines they carry if you want to, by their color. You can see what retail products they carry if you want to be able to have your clients buy retail shampoo and things. So it's all pretty transparent. There's like a ratings and a review system. So you can actually like say, oh, these people get this salon 5 stars like 20 times. So, you can feel confident about it. And you can
That's
look on Yelp and just like, you know what I mean? You can cross reference. We're not trying to hide anything.
right. I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great.
Like, it's a brilliant idea and concept, especially in like New York or LA where you have more
Yeah.
session people working. So
How do
Totally.
you how do you vet the hairdresser to give them the invitation?
So right now it's all by invitation. It's really all by invitation only. So I mean, I know if you're a good person for the platform. I know if you're somebody that's, and the other thing is it's really self-selecting. I mean, if you're not a hairdresser with your own clients, your own book, I mean, this does nothing for you. So if
right.
you're not a great stylist, if you haven't evolved to a point in your career where you provide a certain level of service to have loyalty from your clients that are willing to follow you and go where you're at, I mean, in a way it's just self-selecting. The prices are super reasonable. They're anywhere from 20 to 30 an hour if you go by an hourly rate. But at the flip side, it's not worth it if you're not at a certain level in your pricing as well. So, for us, we've just been so lucky that everybody's had great experiences. We literally just did a soft launch 2 months ago. We
Oh
haven't done
wow.
any marketing, nothing yet. We just want to, it's tech. I'm not a
Sure.
techie, but we're working out all the bugs and it seems to be going smoothly and everybody's been really happy.
I love this. I can't wait to see where you guys end up in like 2 or 3 years, like how it
Yeah.
evolves and all that kind of stuff. Because conceptually it's great. So as a stylist, like I come into, X salon,
Hmm.
I'm renting space from them. So do I have like full availability to use their assistants, or how does that break down, or does that
So
break down depending on the salon?
it's definitely a la carte. This is definitely a la carte. So like you're not getting access to their color bar. You're not utilizing their assistants. I mean, just like pretty much any rental space, you're literally getting the physical space. You're getting their back bar,
Right.
shampoos, conditioners, towels, robes. If there's coffee, tea, all that. But you're doing your own shampoos and finishes. You can, at an extra charge, have the option to use an assistant at some of our locations. We'll be rolling out really soon the ability to, say, just buy the developers if you don't mind carrying around your tubes, but you don't want to like lug a liter of developer.
Sure.
So, we've seen kind of the challenges for the artists. So, yeah, I mean, it's all a cart, but I mean, I think, and we haven't just had cutters, we've had colorists come, and it's really been great. I think it's a lot easier than taking the subway to 4 different places in one day, or a taxi, or driving, if
I
God
think it's
forbid.
amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's really, and we have a few friends that that do session work in New York. We should probably reach out to them to get in touch with you.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of session work and things like that, I mean, one of the most important things to us is the community, because it's not really a community renters right now. I mean, would you agree with that? It's hard to have that community,
Yeah.
especially in a suite, I mean,
100%.
Yeah.
so we're trying to bring the education side to things, definitely partnering with some awesome brands that, will roll out as they come. But, so for example, if you want to do extensions, right? I mean, if you worked at a commissioned salon, you can get an awesome class on, say, Great Lengths from the salon if they arranged it and brought them in. But if you're independent, it's kind of hard sometimes to know how to get
Sure.
that education. So our host salons will actually host education, and then you as an independent artist can come to these education events and can like meet other independent artists, can learn new techniques. So you're not becoming stagnated just because you chose to leave the salon. And so there's a community aspect and education aspect to it. So yeah.
I love that. Love, 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 love.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest problems of being an independent. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You don't have, or people don't know how to find that type of networking or that type of education.
Yeah, it's certainly a challenge, right?
It's certainly a challenge. And I mean, I've seen it. I've seen like these hairdressers that used to work at a salon where they'd all hang out after the end of the day and like chill in the garden, have drinks, or go out for dinner. And now all of a sudden they're all independent. They're like, I haven't seen anybody in so long. And so we sometimes just have like cool, like one of our salons, JA Studios, she just had like a 1-year anniversary. She had an awesome cocktail party, and it was the coolest thing because there were all these hairdressers and some salon owners that I knew, and there were like no ego. There were no boundaries of like, ooh, I'm not going to go to your salon. And
Right.
just, all these cool hairdressers from all over the city coming together, just like breaking bread, having a drink and chatting. And that's what we hope to do, is to kind of break that all down.
Charlene, so let's say like IBS is coming to town, or I know BTC did something in New York back in March. Like could an artist that's going to be in town to do models and stuff, could they also rent space?
Yes.
Especially like if they were going to do, present something at BTC or IBS?
Totally. I mean, the craziest thing to me is that some of these hairdressers that are seeing these beautiful models or these celebs or whatever, that they're like in a hotel room with women hanging over a tub rinsing out highlights. It's like nuts. So absolutely, that's especially, I think, a big target for us, and agencies like, even for Fashion Week prep or whatever. But yeah, definitely. So that's a huge thing, and we've had a lot of that. We've had one of our stylists, Ricardo Rojas, he comes between LA and New York, and he came in, he needed to prep some models for an event he was doing at Neiman's with his product line, and so he did that. We even did an event at one of the salons kind of like promoting his line, so we can be like an Etsy of sorts for like all these cool indie brands. So you can fight the big L'Oreal monster, and not to call L'Oreal a monster, but you can fight the big corporate. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. That's the best.
Charlene, way to smash our friendships there. That was really cool.
Sorry. No, listen, L'Oreal gave me my husband and my child. Thank you to that. Yes, not chatting, but it's definitely a David and Goliath, and to have like a newbie brand just popping up, and to have an audience with people in Manhattan or LA or DC or something like that. It's just giving them an opportunity.
I know that I know Eric Taylor that owns Salon Republic. I don't know if he's done it across all of his studios, but I know that he was doing, what was it called, the Lab, right?
Yeah, the Lab.
The Lab. So he was actually renting out space like in his Salon Republic, like day spaces, and he said that it's appealing to visiting artists as well as people that want to try out the independent thing. Have you had anybody reach out to you that just kind of wants to see if they can do it independently but still work for like a commission salon?
Yes, I
I mean,
actually
don't give names because that would be
no,
terrible.
no. So I had an awesome conversation with
Busted.
girl, though. I had talked with her on Friday, as a matter of fact, because it's still new. So just like I jump like 10 steps ahead and start talking about all the other aspects of it without just getting down to the basic of it. She just had to understand what the concept was.
Mhm.
And she's been working commission, and she might still want to, but just going between, say, Brooklyn and New York City, and just like she's trying to figure out like what are all the moving pieces and can I do it? And so for her to like dip her toe in, I mean, I just think that that's the best way to do it, because you don't have to negotiate this like month long, $5,000 a month. And she was on the West Coast before, and she's like, it's so much more expensive in New York. And it is, because there's not a lot of transparency from the rental situation. So we're trying to like
Right.
organize all of that. So yeah, it's the most easy way to do it.
Charlene, so like we're in the DC area, and like the suite model, it's only been around really for the last 5 years. There were some there, 10 years ago or so,
Right.
but it was like it was slow to come. And now we're starting to get, all the Solas and,
Yeah.
the Dennis
Phoenixes.
Ratner stuff and the Phoenix, like we're getting all that. Is Manhattan set up like that? Like, are there like suites or
It's
is it,
starting.
Mhm.
It started. I think Manhattan's kind of been insulated from the whole rental market. Like, I mean, I remember 10 years ago or 12 years ago, talking about it, and there were like two places. But here we are 10 or 12 years later, there's maybe like six places that everybody knows about. But now there are a couple suites that are starting. I don't know that that works well with the New York clientele as much. They kind of like the buzz and the energy of a salon. So I don't think the suites, and just from a real estate and the cost of the rentals, like
Can't
you have
imagine.
to charge a lot for a suite. So somebody left Chris Chase, my husband's salon, and they went, and this was a young guy, young in his career, and he took on a $7,000 a month like rental nut that he had to like cover. I'm like, dude, you used to post so many pictures like in Miami. Like, you can't go anywhere now. Like, you have to pay that rent. You think you're going to go away for 2 weeks, then what's going to happen? You still have to pay. You're now a salon owner, right?
$1,700 a week.
And that was one of the cheaper ones. I mean, and that was a monthly, but some places
Right.
have an hourly rate and so forth, but not a ton. So the thing that we're seeing is that a lot of everybody is something else, right? Like, your guy from Schedulicity, he was a musician, right? Like,
Yeah, Jerry.
I was like a act. We are all something else. And I find like a lot of hairdressers I talk to, like they're a yoga instructor, or this one's creating her own like hair barrette line or whatever. So, more
Well, they're
and more.
podcasters.
Yeah, you're podcast. You
Yeah,
are. You're
silly.
entrepreneur. So maybe you don't want to rent someplace for like a month and spend $7,000. You want to like pursue other passions. So the fact that you can rent what you need when you need it, a couple hours here and there, I think that that's really what's going to appeal to these artists, these like free-minded people, because the suites are, I think they're amazing in a lot of markets, but they're definitely not for a lot of New Yorkers.
I love this.
Yeah.
So, Miss Charlene, give us all the stuff. Where can people find you? How do you get an invitation and all that jazz?
I will give you guys a code for your listeners.
Great.
Let's see which one. We have a couple codes floating around. Let's do AOG. AOG for Artist on Go. Press. PRESS. You're kind of like press. You're like
We'll take
out
it.
there in the cosmos. So AOG Press, PRESS. So if you go on artistongo.com, it'll say enter your invitation code, so they can enter that. And then you can be on the site. You can like log in with Instagram, which is the easiest, best way, for a couple of reasons. One, it takes like 10 seconds. All you'll have to do is type in your email address after that. And the nice thing is for salon owners that are very protective of their spaces, which, some of these salons you wouldn't normally have access to. I mean,
Sure.
most of them you wouldn't have access to. They're not known as rental salons. But if they can like click on your Instagram and like see a couple like human pieces of you, the salons all approve the bookings for the most part. There's a couple instant bookings where you can just book and you're good. But for now, they're approving the bookings as they come in. They can click on your Instagram. You'll get approved a lot quicker. And that's really it. So artistongo.com, AOGPRESS, where it says enter invite code, type in AOGPRESS, AOG Press,
Uh-huh.
log in with Instagram, enter your email, you're on. and it'll kind of geo tag where you're at, and it'll show you the salons closest to where you're at. But you can kind of scroll through and see all over Manhattan and Brooklyn.
That's nice.
The rates are anywhere from 20 to 30 an hour, and there's day rates there too. But we can do longer term. But right now, I think everybody's really loving those hourly rates to try it out. And, that's it. You can submit a request. You don't get charged unless it gets accepted. A couple of the salons have instant booking. So if you need to see a client in 3 hours, you can literally go on and book a space for that afternoon. So
that's awesome.
So,
And
yeah.
I was going to say, so if I owned a salon and I wanted to partake in this, how can I find out, or how can I reach out to you to maybe jump on board?
Anybody that's interested in anything, like as a salon owner or as an artist, you guys can all email me. Charlene Wilkinson is my name. So my email is CW, my initial, @artistongo. Not just Artist on Go. So CW@artistongo.com. Just email me. We have a wait list for salons in Manhattan, and we have some waiting in the wings for when we launch to other cities. So if you're not in New York City, it doesn't matter. Just reach out to me, because we're kind of compiling that list, and we're going to roll the cities out based on demand, because we have a little place on the website where you can say where you want it as an artist. Like, I want to be in DC, get me some salons there. Yeah.
Love this. Miss Charlene, this is incredible. I think it's amazing. I think it's that hole between like commission salons and sweet and the sweet life,
right.
And I think it's pretty cool. Again, I'm super excited to see where this evolves into in the next year or two.
Thank you.
DC.
I love DC. I've worked in DC on and off for my whole career. I totally will come and hang.
That's awesome. Miss Charlene Wilkinson, thank you very, very much for joining us on your day off.
Thank you, Corey and Tony. Have a great day.
Hey, so there it is. Hey, this is a message that we've been trying to bring, I don't know, for the last couple months, actually since we started the podcast. Hey, so if you like the podcast, or if you find that it's useful, please leave us a review, a 5-star review on iTunes. Leave us a rating and a review. But if you don't like it, forget about it. Yeah, totally forget about this message. We also want to thank Sarah and Blaine from Pretty Gritty. Sarah and Blaine, they are a band out of Portland, Oregon, and we just want to thank them very much for allowing us to use their song, Pleased to Meet You, on our podcast. That's cool. I think you can find their music on iTunes.
Peace and hair grease.